Thank you. The three commissioners we have with us today are Commissioner Diane Berman, Commissioner John Maggiore, and Commissioner Tracy Edwards. Commissioner Berman, would you like to make some remarks?
Thank you so much, Judge. Yes, my name is Diane Berman. I've been a commissioner since 2013. I'm very happy to be here today virtually as part of this hearing. It's really important to hear from the public on what they think with the broadband assessment program and the study. I look forward with my fellow commissioners being careful listeners today to hear from the public, and I appreciate everyone who's coming out virtually to participate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Berman. Commissioner Maggiore, would you like to make some remarks?
Thank you, Judge Sayre. I would echo my colleagues' sentiments. I too am here to listen, and I would also like to express my appreciation for everyone who's turned up virtually to participate. I find these comments to be very enlightening and important as I make decisions as a commissioner. So I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say today.
Thank you, Commissioner Maggiore. Commissioner Edwards, would you like to make some remarks?
Yes, thank you very much, Judge. I just would like to say welcome to everyone that is participating. It is truly an honor to be here to hear directly from the public. This is a very important item, and I look forward to hearing your remarks. And I'm thankful to be joined with my fellow commissioners. And thank you, Judge, and your team for hosting this today.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Before we get into the details of the study, I want to explain the other ways the public can comment in this matter other than by speaking at these public statement hearings. If you did not pre-register to speak at one of the hearings, but you would like your views included in the record, there are a variety of other ways to comment that were listed in the public notice for these hearings. For those of you with computer access, we're showing on the screen a slide with the other ways to comment, and all of the details are in the January 26th public notice for today's event. You can do so by submitting comments on the department's website, or by email, or by regular mail, or by phone. And staff will explain in a minute how you can participate by completing our broadband assessment study and our speed test. Regardless of how the comments are submitted, they will be given equal consideration. Comments may be submitted and will be considered throughout the pendency of this proceeding. However, and you'll be hearing this date again a few times from us this afternoon, because this study needs to be done in a timely way, we really need your input by March 18th. Department of Public Service staff has recorded a brief presentation explaining the study and the kinds of information we're hoping to get from the public. I yield the floor to staff. I'm not getting audio on this.
The legislature passed. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this important public statement hearing on the issue of broadband mapping. My name is Valerie Galasso, and I am the Chief of Public Policy in the Office of Telecommunications at the Department of Public Service. I'd like to kick us off today by sharing some background on our new broadband assessment program, which focuses on the study of high-speed broadband infrastructure in New York State. In April of last year, the legislature passed the Comprehensive Broadband Connectivity Act of 2021. This bill allowed the Department of Public Service to create the Broadband Assessment Program, a program now housed within the agency's Office of Telecommunications. The program, whose work will be updated annually, will release this spring New York's first ever in-depth interactive broadband map detailing the availability and reliability of high-speed broadband infrastructure statewide. We are committed to making this program something that can be used by everyone, but we need your input in order to understand what's happening in your community. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what mapping broadband looks like and how we're conducting our research. Mapping broadband infrastructure is no small task. That's why we're using a three-pronged approach. First, we're using internet service provider data to help us assess gaps statewide. Second, we're conducting field verification of high-speed infrastructure in the most remote places in New York State. And third, we're hearing straight from the consumer via our broadband assessment survey and through our series of public statement hearings. Some of you are probably wondering what we're hoping to learn from today. We want to hear about your internet accessibility barriers writ large. Among other topics, we're interested in hearing from those of you who are dealing with the following. You lack internet service entirely. Internet is unaffordable to you. You lack ISP competition in your area. And finally, you don't feel like you're getting the speeds that you pay for. Lastly, we have two calls to action. First, we are asking everyone to take our broadband assessment and speed test by March 18th, 2022. You can visit www.empirestatebroadband.com from a home computer, laptop, mobile device, or while visiting a public Wi-Fi location. If you're unable to take the survey due to lack of connectivity, you can call our toll-free broadband assessment line at 1-855-NY-BB-MAP. That's 1-855-692-2627. For those of you who have already completed the survey, thank you. We are proud to report to date we have had more than 17,000 households and businesses from every corner of the state complete this survey, and this number continues to grow. Our final call to action, we want to make every eligible New Yorker aware about the FCC's new Affordable Connectivity Program, also known as the ACP. This program provides discounts up to $30 a month toward internet service. Please visit www.fcc.gov/ACP or call 877-384-2575 for more information and to sign up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Galasso and Department of Public Service staff. Now I will explain the process that we're going to follow today. The purpose of our hearing is to provide you with an opportunity to tell the Commission your thoughts on the issues in this proceeding. The statements you make today will become part of the case record. We have a court reporter joining us who will prepare a transcript of the hearing, which will be included in the official record of this proceeding, so that your comments can be considered by the members of the Commission. When it is ready, the transcript will be available for view on the Department of Public Service website. This hearing is also being live streamed on the internet. This hearing is not an evidentiary hearing with cross-examination or a question and answer session, but is a forum to hear comments from you. If you have registered to make a statement, we ask that you please summarize lengthy written statements orally and submit the full written statements by email or mail. I am asking you to try and stay within more or less a time frame of 5 minutes for your oral comments today. If you seem to be making a long statement, just out of courtesy for the people who are waiting to speak, I may jump in and ask you to summarize and finish up, in which case you should send in the full details of your comments by one of the alternative means that I explained earlier and that are explained in the January 26th public notice. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're holding this public statement hearing virtually. Normally, if this were an in-person public statement hearing, people would be allowed to sign up to make statements as they come into the hearing and as long as the hearing's going on. In this hearing, we can't easily identify people as they get on the line to listen to the hearing. So as a result, as was stated in the notice of the public statement hearing, we have asked people to pre-register if they wish to make a public statement at today's hearing. There are a number of people who have signed up and are participating electronically. If you are going to speak, you should please only use one audio input and one audio output at your end. Otherwise, we may experience problems with feedback when you're speaking. I will first call the persons who have timely pre-registered electronically one by one to speak. We'll then call those people who pre-registered by phone if there are any. For the people who registered electronically, after we call your name, if we see your name in the list of users online today, we will unmute your line. And our Consumer Services Office, Jill Wasser, will let you know that you're unmuted. Please remember that if you have put your own line or your own computer on mute, you will also have to unmute your line at your end before you begin to speak. If you have already spoken at a previous hearing, there is no need to make the same statement again, except to the extent that you have something to add. Please speak slowly and clearly so that the court reporter can accurately capture your statement for the record. Our first speaker is Bruce Miller, trustee with Port Jefferson Village. I do not see Mr. Miller in the list of attendees at this time. Mr. Miller, if you're participating by computer and perhaps logged in under someone else's account, please hit the raised hand icon that we're showing on the screen right now. And if you are calling in by telephone, please hit *3 on your telephone now.
Again, Mr. Miller, if you are online, please identify yourself. Judge, I do not see Mr. Miller at this time.
Thank you. We'll circle back and try and pick up anybody that we've missed at the end of the list. Our next speaker is Rasha Kadir, Constituent Liaison with the New York City Council. I also do not see you in the list of attendees. So if you are logged in, perhaps under a different computer name, hit the raised hand icon. And if you're on the phone, please hit *3 on your telephone set now.
Aisha, if you are on the line, again, please identify yourself as the Judge Sayer requested. And if you are a call-in user, please press *3. Judge, I do not see this person at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'll circle back. Our next speaker is Frank Lallier. I do see you on the list. You are unmuted and you may go ahead and make your statement.
Mr.
Hi,
Lallier, you are unmuted.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I live in a small community near Governor, New York on a lake. And I think we've already been involved in some sort of launch for high speed because 3/4 of our residents have it and 1/4 don't. I just wondered if we would be, sort of moved to the top of the list in order to get the next wave of installations.
Sure. Could you identify your location a little bit more closely?
I'm in the 13642 zip code, St. Lawrence County, Southwest St. Lawrence County, not far from Fort Drum. And we have more and more people living on the lake year round and continue to work and trying to work from home. And as you all know, it's very difficult without high speed. I live on 3 Indian Head Trail, Governor, New York, 13642.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate your comments.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Tucker, and we had a problem with your registration. We only show O as the last name. So if Tucker O is online, could you please either identify yourself by hitting the raised hand icon or hitting *3 on your telephone now?
please press star 3 so that I can locate you. At this time, Judge Sayer, I do not see Tucker O.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker I have on the list is Jacob Kraniak. I don't see him on the list, and he did speak last week. But if you have something to add, Mr. Kraniak, and you're on the line, please either hit the raised hand icon or press star 3 on your telephone.
Again, Mr. Kraniak, if you are on the line, please identify yourself or press star 3 on your computer, on your keypad if you are a call-in user, so that I may identify and locate you. Judge Sayer, right now I do not see Mr. Kraniak.
Okay, we'll circle back. Our next speaker is Elaine Hopper. I also do not see Ms. Hopper on the list, but if you are logged in on the computer, please press the raise hand icon, or if you're on the telephone, please press star 3 now.
Ms. Hopper, once again, if you are on the line, please, as Judge Sayer mentioned, please use the raise hand icon or press star 3 on your keypad if you are a call-in user so that I may identify you. Judge Sayer, I do not see Ms. Hopper.
We'll move on. Our next speaker is Tim Haverluck, H-A-W-R-Y-L-U-K. Mr. Haverluck, if you're on the line on computer, please press the raise hand icon. If you're on the phone, please press the star 3 on your handset.
Mr. Haverluck, again, if you are on the computer, as Judge Sayer indicated, please press the raise hand icon, or on the telephone, please press star 3 on your keypad so that I may identify you. Judge, at this time, I do not see Mr. Haverluck.
That's my list. So I'll go through one by one the people, which is a large majority, that we didn't get statements from. Again, when we call your name, if you're on the line, press star 3 if you're on a telephone, and press the raise hand icon if you're on a computer. I'll start again with Bruce Miller. I'll move on to Rasha Kadir. K-A-D-I-R.
I do not see either, Judge.
Mr. Tucker O, and I apologize about our confusion here. We just have the first letter of your last name. Mr. Jacob Kraniak, K-R-A-N-I-A-K. Ms. Elaine Hopper. Again, please press either the raise hand icon on your computer or star 3 on your telephone handset. And Mr. Tim Haverluck.
At this time, Judge, no one has identified themselves.
I do not believe we have anyone who pre-registered by telephone. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, since we have some additional time here, I'd like to give people who did not register in advance an opportunity to speak. I'll start with people who are participating electronically. You'll need to find that raise hand icon that is shown on the slide that we're displaying right now. You might have to move your cursor around to make it appear. Click on that, and we will find you in the participant list, call your name, and unmute you. And you may go ahead and make your statement. Anyone on computer who would like to speak now and has not pre-registered or did pre-register and may have joined us late, please press the raised hand icon at this time. Ms. Wasser, do you see anybody?
I do not see the raised hands.
Well, let's try people who are participating by telephone, who did not register in advance or joined late but would like to speak. If you would like to speak, please press *3 now on your telephone, and we will find you in the list. I see a number of raised hands, so let's get started. Let's start with Mr. Jason Gusso, G-U-Z-Z-O. Please unmute him and he can proceed.
Oh, thank you, Judge Sayer, commissioners, and commission staff. I represent Hudson Valley Wireless, and we appreciate the opportunity to comment in the matter of the Commission's broadband study, mapping pursuant to the Broadband Connectivity Act. We applaud the leadership of Governor Hochul, the Department of Public Service, the New York State Connect All Office, community stakeholders, and the many federal, state, and local leaders that have worked hard to close the digital divide. New York State is now leading the nation in broadband access, and the current administration has made significant improvements in pole attachment regulations and removed barriers for occupancy fees and fiber optic installations for Department of Transportation roads associated with new grant opportunities. We're here today to discuss removing additional barriers to broadband availability, affordability, and adoption so that the remaining unserved New Yorkers can participate in today's digital economy. Solving New York's connectivity issues starts with developing accurate maps. And we need to target broadband connectivity to the structure location instead of road segments. Road segment methodology follows a linear model that doesn't always account for long driveways, and many New Yorkers residing in rural areas that have driveway lengths over 150 feet might get left behind. So the targeting the structure location ensures that the driveway length is included in provider's total cost to serve model. The latter model would result in constituents sharing cost of construction, and they can't. A lot of them can't afford the contribution in aid of construction if the home is passed but not served. So targeting structural locations will ensure that significantly more homes are connected with high-speed internet. And we also recommend that the Department of Public Service develop maps in coordination with the federal standards that are listed under the Broadband Deployment, Accuracy, and Technological Availability Act, also known as the Broadband Data Act. Federal Communications Commission was tasked under the 2020 Broadband Data Act to create a location fabric, and this data set includes all locations or structures in the U.S. that broadband could potentially serve. So the fabric will also allow that the broadband deployment data that's overlaid against accurate location will illustrate gaps in coverage. So the data company that generates the location fabric is also responsible for working with states, local, and tribal entities to gather local knowledge and make corrections to the map. Many of the county governments have already undertaken independent mapping projects and contracted with companies to survey wireline infrastructure, drive test mobile broadband networks, and the Department of Public Service Commission has also launched additional mapping efforts to collect the provider coverage. We assume that DPS is going to be working with the data collection and county surveys, and that information is going to be used to validate the broadband serviceable location fabric created by the FCC. Our opinion is that New York State should use the broadband serviceable location fabric to determine what is an unserved location. We also agree with the definitions under the Infrastructure and Jobs Act and the NTIA, clarifying that the state should propose projects that meet the statutory priorities, with the first priority being funding to provide broadband service to areas that are unserved. By definition, that's those areas that are below 25 by 3, followed by underserved areas. And the definition of that is below 100 by 20, and then servicing community anchor institutions, which are 1 gigabit synchronous connections. We suggest that the New York State utilize speed tiers targeting 100 megs download and 20 megs upload with latency sufficient to support real-time interactive applications. And these speed tiers that are consistent with the New York Broadband, Phase 3, CAF 2, Rural Digital Opportunities Fund, also known as RDOF, NTIA, Broadband Infrastructure Program, and more. So New York State has made significant progress under the New York Broadband Program and other grants. But a recent study ranked New York as 30th in requiring federal funding to deploy fiber to the premise, despite all of its investment. The remaining unserved businesses are in hard-to-reach areas, and an average cost to deploy fiber to the premise could exceed over $100,000 per home in some of these extremely high-cost areas. We're encouraging New York State to allow for technology-neutral deployments of terrestrial-based networks that allow for a combination of fiber optic and fixed wireless, consistent with the IIJA guidelines. Many of these areas are in a socioeconomical disadvantage and currently rely on satellite-based internet product for basic connectivity. If New York State excludes fixed wireless, many of these communities will continue to be unserved and maintain their reliance on satellite. Fixed and mobile networks also provide a foundation for emerging technologies and IoT. Mobile and private LTE networks also work exceptionally well to support low-income subscribers and transient living conditions. The cost to serve individual units in remote and rural communities are typically higher than dense urban areas. The service providers in rural and remote areas typically rely on funding either on a percentage of reimbursement for capital expenditures or ongoing support, which will cover operation over a period of time. Most providers operate within a cost to serve model, requiring a certain number of homes to be connected to break even on an investment. Even at 100% CapEx subsidy, some of these very remote areas could operate at a loss because the expenses exceed revenue. So to compound these issues, the demographics in the very remote communities typically hit a trifecta for lower adopting populations, which could be lower older adult, lower income, and lower education levels. We need more programs focused on digital skilling, digital literacy, and subscriber subsidy to bring the vulnerable populations online. Affordability also remains a challenge for many New Yorkers. We're very fortunate that Congress appropriated $3.2 billion from the FCC to help low-income providers and also cover connected devices. But that program offered $50 a month subsidies for qualifying low-income subscribers. The benefit for that program ended yesterday, and we're transitioning a lot of the eligible subscribers over to ACP, or the Affordable Connectivity Program, with a benefit discount of $30 per month. Although ACP offers broader-based eligibility for subscribers, the subscribers are still losing a $20 a month subsidy. So the economics for providing service in dense urban areas are much different from high-cost, low-density deployments. And service providers that focus on high-cost, low-density can't afford to cover a $20 per month loss in subsidy. So we're recommending that the state and local governments provide help to cover those funding gaps. So in conclusion, Hudson Valley Wireless currently offers speeds of 200 megabits per second to residential subscribers in single-family homes. We can provide faster speeds in MDU environments. We have equipment that's capable of providing 10 gigabit service for businesses and data centers. And as detailed above, we firmly believe that all New Yorkers deserve high-quality terrestrial-based internet access to support modern lifestyles. We recommend that New York State, in coordination with the FCC and NTIA, allow for technology-neutral deployments to meet and exceed 100% of the goals at 100% of New York. We look forward to working with the Department of Public Service and relevant stakeholders to help connect all New Yorkers and bridge the digital divide.
Thank you, Mr. Gusso. If you could hit that raise hand icon again to unraise your hand, that would be appreciated. Our next,
Thank you, Jeff.
sure. Our next speaker is Annabelle Felton. Please unmute Ms. Felton.
Ms.
You may go
Felton,
ahead.
please go ahead.
I show her as muted right now. There you go.
Sorry, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for holding these public hearings. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Annabelle Felton. I live in the town of Duanesburg, which is the westernmost town in Schenectady County. We're about a half-hour drive from Albany and Schenectady. I am the chair of the Duanesburg Broadband Committee, which is a group of elected officials and community members formed in early 2018 to advocate for wired, high-speed broadband service to every location in our town. When the committee was formed in early 2018, our first step was to create a Google map of all the unserved locations in town. At the time, 1/3 of the town, of about 2,000 residents, were not served with wired broadband connection by any provider. Broadband Program Office Phase 3 grant funding helped reduce that number to 256 locations still unserved after builds were done by Pattersonville Telephone and builds with Verizon Fiber. Duanesburg is very fortunate to have dedicated citizens and local officials who rallied to address the lack of broadband in our community. Countless hurdles face rural communities like ours. Incumbent providers hold franchises with density requirements that allow them to ignore us. However, many residents who filed complaints with the Public Service Commission after receiving exorbitant kayaks contributions in aid of construction estimates were heard. Ultimately, the Public Service Commission did help many of our residents receive long overdue service. Fast forward to September 2021 from early 2018, Charter Spectrum completed its build under the settlement agreement with the Public Service Commission. There are now 60 locations remaining unserved in the town of Duanesburg. As I predicted in my statement before the joint hearing of the New York State Legislature in September 2019, Charter is now seeking funding to build out to every location remaining unserved in town. Duanesburg needs ongoing grant funding to assure each of those locations is served with a wired broadband connection. If a location has power, it needs broadband connectivity. We need accurate, publicly available service maps and a plan, a universal service fund perhaps, so that new construction projects aren't hit with kayaks of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in unexpected utility construction charges. With respect to the specific topics listed in your notice of this hearing, I can perhaps provide some information from my perspective on those. Locations with broadband internet service at 25 down, 1 up will be left on the wrong side of the digital divide. That speed is not adequate for business and school applications, and the FCC and the Public Service Commission should update the definition of minimum speeds. The Duanesburg Broadband Committee seeks new wired internet connections of 200 down, 25 up, or faster, and for good reason. Take it from me. I did not get broadband service until September of 2021. That means that I spent the entire pandemic with 3 people working and taking college courses from my home on wireless cellular routers. Besides the inherent problem with data caps, Excel and other commonly used apps and VPNs don't work when speeds slow to 25 down, 1 up. It's the upload speeds that are the problem. You try it. On the next issue, I have no personal experience with service providing download speeds between 25 and 100. But the Public Service Commission should be expecting symmetrical speeds as soon as possible. Fiber backhaul is needed for 5G cellular anyway. So in my opinion, please stop wasting your time and our tax dollars on inferior services. When it comes to competition, I know of very few locations in the town of Duanesburg where there's more than one wired provider. The few areas where there are where Verizon overbuilt Charter Spectrum using Broadband Program Office Phase 3 funding. When it comes to costs, high-speed internet is too costly for many people in my community. People on a fixed income or with low incomes simply can't pay for wired services. They rely on cell phones or other wireless devices when wired connections are inconvenient or expensive. So as I think you have all heard, a robust communication system requires both wired and wireless service. We need to be able to use our cell phones in rural areas, as well as have access to high-speed wired broadband. To conclude, what I need and want from you, my Department of Public Service, to take away from my comments are the following 3 items. Broadband service maps are critically important and should be publicly available and accurate. Second, any location with an electric service needs access to wired broadband service. And finally, kayaks, if they continue to exist, need to be grant funded and not the responsibility of the homeowner. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Felton. Please hit the raise hand icon again to unraise your hand. Our next speaker is Lori Marr. Please unmute Ms. Marr.
Ms. Marr, you are unmuted. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to address this panel today. The Development Authority of the North Country, which I represent, is an independent state public benefit corporation that owns a 1,850-mile fiber optic telecommunications network that stretches across rural northern New York, the very top counties of the state. The authority began constructing the network in 2004 because there was a desperate need for high-speed broadband access for schools, hospitals, and businesses, as well as residences. But construction of broadband in rural areas was cost prohibitive and still is. So private companies were not even willing to build a network back then. So during the pandemic, we've all seen the increased dependence on internet connectivity for school, healthcare, and work, to say nothing of just simple social connections. Families discovered that their available bandwidth could no longer support several kids doing schoolwork at home and mom and dad working from home. Some rural homes in our area don't even have an internet connection at all. The Development Authority was called upon to set up wireless hotspots in school and store parking lots, in some cases during the height of the pandemic, so that parents could drive their kids there to be able to connect just to do their schoolwork. One rural library in St. Lawrence County had to expand its parking lot in order to accommodate all the residents who needed to access its Wi-Fi hotspot. In 2021, the Development Authority partnered with Lewis, Jefferson, and St. Lawrence counties to conduct broadband studies to better understand the issues and to collect data about what broadband infrastructure currently exists. We heard from 4,870 residents. A full 20% of the respondents reported that they do not have broadband access, or they have access only via dial-up, a cellular hotspot, or satellite. Of the people who reported that they did not have access, 78% of them said it's simply not available where they live. An additional 13% said it's because it's too expensive and they can't afford it. 64% said that negatively impacts their ability to work from home, and more than 50% said it's a problem for kids trying to do their schoolwork remotely. Of those who responded to our survey and said that they did have access, still anywhere from 30 to 46%, depending on the county, said they're unable to purchase speeds that they need for things as basic as working from home or having kids learning remotely. Very, very few people in Northern New York even have a choice of providers. In our 3 counties, Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence, 17,481 locations are being covered by new New York broadband grants. However, 50 to 60% of them are being addressed by older satellite technology. The satellite technology that was awarded is not a viable broadband solution. Service is impacted by weather and has high latency, which is detrimental to video services like those that people need for at-home schooling and when working from home to even do a Zoom meeting. Satellite service is relatively expensive with capped data usage, which means that once the usage is surpassed for the month, speeds are throttled down. We heard that from many people. The federal government does not recognize current generation satellite service as true broadband, which, as several other speakers have mentioned, is 25 up and 3 down. Many of the key broadband build-out grants are being awarded by census block, which is simply not effective in rural areas. If one home in a rural block is served, then the entire census block is written off as served, which is always far from the truth. It's very expensive to run broadband to rural homes. It costs a provider approximately $35,000 per mile to build out. If there are only 5 or 6 homes within a 1-mile stretch, it will take the company years to recoup a return on its investment, and clearly no one will even attempt that. And for broadband service providers, it's not just about the build-out fees. They also have the ongoing cost of operating and maintaining their systems. We see many instances where there's a hamlet here and a 4 corners 5 miles away, and both of them are served, but there's a gap between the two where there's no service for those homes. The best approach to that would be to incentivize the provider to bridge the gap. A key detriment to the build-out of rural broadband in New York State is the fee that is currently being imposed by the State Department of Transportation on any fiber optic cable that is in or even crosses a state right-of-way, including fiber that's on a pole. In addition to the fee, the requirement for a survey of the pole line adds significantly to the cost of construction, making it even more costly to deploy broadband service to rural subscribers on state roads. As one example of the impact of the fee, the Development Authority's regional network provides backbone connectivity for many small regional providers, schools, and hospitals. We've calculated that approximately 830 miles of our fiber optic cable is installed in DOT rights-of-way. It's estimated that if the DOT fee is imposed on existing fiber optic infrastructure, it will cost the Development Authority $1.6 million a year and will preclude us from expanding the network that we've built across Northern New York. This fee is also being levied on private companies like Spectrum and Verizon. No company is going to undertake system build-outs in rural Northern New York with these fees in place. The right-of-way fees are creating a huge disincentive to bringing broadband to rural communities and homes. And these fees disproportionately impact rural areas of the state because almost every rural fiber build-out requires the use of state land or the need to cross over state land. Often in our area, there is literally no other road in the area. In addition to the right-of-way fiber fees, the overall make-ready cost of implementing broadband infrastructure has risen dramatically due to additional new requirements. The Development Authority used to budget $3,000 to $5,000 per mile for make-ready costs. Now that cost averages $15,000 to $20,000 per mile due to surveys that are required, permits, and other new requirements. Just as importantly, the entire make-ready process has slowed considerably, resulting in a much longer time for a broadband project to be implemented for those who need it most. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I will submit my comments in writing as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marr. Could you again raise hands so that, yes, you've done it. Thank you very much. Mr. Lallier, I see your hand is raised. Do you have something to add to your prior comments?
Lallier, you've been unmuted.
I do. After listening to some of those comments, my situation falls in the same boat, especially about the mapping. I believe the Google Maps that were used during the last wave of installations is incorrect. It shows us living on this road called Pump House Road instead of Indian Head Trail. And when the service provider looked at Pump House Road, they didn't see any residences, so we were missed in the phase of installations. What's going to be done different so that we are not missed during the next round of installations? I hope that they update their service maps and maybe speak to somebody more local, like that lady from the Development Authority of New York or of the North Country, because they're the ones who know who was missed. And I know I'm just a resident, so most of these people are working for telecommunications companies. But I really hope that it gets fixed, because it's denying us from work and communication with the outside world when our neighbors right next to us have it. We don't. So thanks for having these meetings, and I look forward to some positive results.
Thank you very much for your further comments. And again, please hit that hand icon to unraise your hand. Our next speaker is Douglas Wood. Could you please unmute Mr. Wood? Go ahead.
Mr.
Thank
Wood,
you
you
very
are
much.
unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Thank you very much. So thank you, Judge Sayer. Thank you for commissioners for your service to the people of New York and for this opportunity to speak today. I am the founder and director of Americans for Responsible Technology. We are a nonprofit coalition of more than 150 grassroots organizations from more than 43 states across the country. We advocate for the deployment of safe, economical, and future-proof wired technology and equitable access to technologies that benefit society and protect the health, safety, security, privacy, and property of all Americans. First, I want to emphasize what we see as the tremendous difference between wired broadband and wireless broadband. And our hope that the Commission would do everything possible to ensure that public funds are used for wired broadband. And I'll tell you why that's so important. Wired broadband is generally cheaper, it's faster, it's more reliable, it's more secure, it's future-proof, and it comes with no serious health concerns that we know of. I'm sure the commissioners are aware of the federal lawsuit last August, in which the federal court ordered the FCC to reevaluate its human health exposure guidelines because they are about 25 years out of date. It called the FCC's decision not to update those guidelines arbitrary and capricious. The FDA is also the subject of a pending lawsuit because it has never conducted an evaluation of the science that links exposure to RF radiation to serious health problems. Even the FDA's own study, which it requested, which found an increased risk of cancer, has never been evaluated under an Administrative Procedures Act compliant study. So we have some pending lawsuits because of what's known in the scientific community. And we think it's really important that the Commission be very careful in doing things that benefit private companies that are running wireless technology, but not wired. I also want to make the point, and I think this probably has been known to the Commission for a long time, but telephone customers in New York State paid additional fees on their phone bills for more than 20 years. To pay for a statewide fiber optic network, which the telecom companies started and then stopped because they knew and realized that they could make a lot more money with their unregulated wireless service than with their regulated wired service. Finally, I just want to point out, and again, you may know about this, but if you don't, I want you to keep it in mind. The new federal broadband law that prioritizes projects that support the deployment of 5G. This is you know, the $65 billion that's been committed to broadband, the lobbyists for the wireless companies sneaked in and they put in the word "and" instead of the word "or." And it now requires that all federal funding for broadband, what they call priority broadband projects, those projects must support the deployment of 5G. Now, I think anybody that, I'm sure the legislators didn't have time to read every note of the bill. For those that are interested, it's on page 756 of the bill. It's section I, subsection 1, subsection 2, blah, blah, blah. It's not a long section. You can read through it and you'll find, quote, support the deployment of 5G successor wireless technologies and other advanced services. We're lobbying Congress to change that to an "or" so that not all broadband projects must support the deployment of 5G to get federal funding. We think it's clearly a mistake. Well, not a mistake from the wireless company's perspective, I'm sure. So I will leave it there. I appreciate this opportunity to address you. I strongly urge you. It is community-owned fiber that is the way to fix the digital divide. The programs that are being offered, the rebates for this and the rebates for that so that people will sign themselves up for wireless is really not the way to spend public money. Wireless is an almost already outdated technology, and it's full of risks on many fronts. And so that's why we advocate for wired technology. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, for your comments. If you could hit that icon, yes, you have, to unraise your hand. If there is anyone who is just using a telephone and wishes to speak, please hit *3 on your handset now.
I do not see anyone else, Your Honor.
Okay, I will make a last call for the people that we didn't get the first time since we've taken a few minutes. Mr. Bruce Miller, Rasha Kadir, Tucker O, Jacob Kraniak, Elaine Hopper, Tim Haraluk. If any of you are on the line, please either hit the raised hand icon or *3 on your telephone handset.
No, they have not identified themselves, Judge Sayer.
Then I think we've come to the conclusion of the hearing. I want to remind members of the public that they may submit public comments throughout this proceeding by the other means mentioned earlier and in the notice of public statement hearing issued on January 26th. And as we have explained earlier, we really need to hear from you by March 18th to include your input into the study. We also urge you to participate in the Commission's Broadband Assessment and Speed Test questionnaire. I thank the commenters for their participation. I also thank Commissioners Berman and Majori and Edwards for participating, Jill Wasser and Xenia Vega from our Consumer Services Office for administering this session, and our court reporter, Anthony McLean. This hearing is now concluded. We'll go off the record.
Thank you.
We are off the record, Your Honor.
Thank you. Everyone stay safe. We can end the live stream and terminate the call at this time. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.